Welcome to the Love Lounge podcast. This is not a place to learn, it's a place to land. Nothing here has to be earned, and nothing needs to be fixed. Love Lounge is an atmosphere, not a lesson. Here's your host, Laura Doughty.
2 years ago this week, something interesting happened. It was an eclipse day when it happened. That wasn't the interesting part. On that day, I started something called Find Your Vintage Vibe. So at the time, it felt exciting. I was really it just felt like this is what needed to come out. Kind of like literally right now, you can see the little, green things coming out of the earth. That's kind of what it felt like. A little mysterious, not quite sure what was going to pop out. And if I'm honest, I didn't fully know where it was going to go. I just knew it felt like the next right thing for me to do. I was honoring what was surfacing for me. And today, 2 years later, I've been reflecting on that moment and on the woman who started it. Because when I look back now, I realized something very important. The woman who started Find Your Vintage Vibe and the woman sitting here today are not even remotely the same person. So when I started Find Your Vintage Vibe, I thought I was helping women, really myself specifically, reconnect with figuring out what your true inner core vibe was. You can't really attract what you want if you don't know what your own energy vibe is that you're putting out. So that can come in how you express love, how you communicate, the clothes that you wear, the language that you use, all of that. So from the aesthetic, your presence, and like I said, the energy you carry into a room. And there was truth in that. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I was also trying to reconnect with something inside myself. Like many women, especially women who are capable, strong, driven, and your normal mode of operation is achieving things, I had spent a lot of my life moving forward through effort, through proving, through building, through doing. And that energy can create incredible things. But it can also create a life where you're constantly, and I mean constantly, asking yourself, okay, what's the next thing I should build? What's next? Literally, the chatter is nonstop. And we hear this phrase all the time. Go with the flow. And God knows you hear it a lot when you're in a yoga class. And when I lived in California, it was just, part of our language. Just go with the flow. And yes, it kind of sounds hippie, whatever label you want to put on it. But what's interesting is that many people say that and then quietly judge themselves the entire time they're doing it. I know because I did. You start something that feels right in the moment, but because it doesn't immediately turn into a defined outcome, a clear business model, or some sort of measurable success, you start questioning yourself. Am I doing enough? Is this going somewhere? Should I be doing more? And that's just your own personal chatter. Then you have friends, supportive or not, because they come in all colors, that say, oh, how's that going? And then you can hear the judgy tone in their voice. What I've come to realize over the past 2 years is just this. Sometimes the moment itself is the destination. The real gift of this 2-year journey has been learning something that didn't come naturally to me. letting the moment lead, not forcing the next step, not trying to prove something, not trying to make every idea become a structure, just allowing something to exist long enough to reveal what it actually is. Now that is what flow looks like. And that was extremely uncomfortable for me at first, but I'm telling you, I did it. I sat in it. I didn't care what other people said or questioned, like, what is she doing now? I know, like, I am fully aware. But here's the thing. I have always known that I have no problem jumping off the cliff and hoping, knowing, that's the right word, not hoping, that the cape, the parachute, the landing strip, whatever, will show up. Because when you're used to producing, building, achieving, stillness can feel like you're doing something wrong. So for me, this was the first time in starting Find Your Vintage Vibe that I just put the spaghetti on the wall and let it form into whatever shape was next. But what I discovered instead was that when you stop forcing meaning onto something, meaning finds you. Over time, I realized that Find Your Vintage Vibe wasn't really about finding a mate or finding my style or my vibe, not in the way that I originally thought. It was about essence, about remembering the parts of myself that existed before I started performing for the world. Vintage to me started to mean something deeper, not old, but timeless. The parts of you that were always there, before expectations, the roles, and before proving entered the picture. When I look back at the woman who started this 2 years ago, which is now, just so we're all clear, raised by fire, completely different vibe, I feel so much love for her because I could not even remotely be where I am right now if on April 8th, the day of the eclipse, if I would not have started tinkering around with images and logos and mantras, etc., finding my way through that forest, I could not be where I am right now. So I feel so much love for her because she was brave enough to begin something she didn't fully understand. So if that is you, I am cheering you on and standing with you in the pause. If you're like me, that pause is kind of painful, but it is extraordinarily beautiful. That pause, that process, it takes courage. Starting something when the outcome is clear is easy peasy. Starting something when the only thing you have is a feeling, that is something else entirely. If I could sit across from the woman who started Find Your Vintage Vibe 2 years ago, I wouldn't change a single thing she did. I wouldn't tell her to move faster. I wouldn't tell her to build more. I wouldn't tell her to try to figure it out. I would tell her that you don't have to have the answer. And most of all, I would tell her this: keep going. It's not about building the brand. You're building yourself. And if you're in a moment right now where something in your life feels undefined, you're going from one thing to the other, and of course society tells you that you're only supposed to be doing one thing. Something is evolving. You're where you're letting the moment lead you. I hope you give yourself the same grace. because sometimes the most meaningful chapters of our lives start before we fully understand the story we're writing. And for me right now, I'm still in that. As you all may remember from my past episode recently, I just got on to the New York Marathon for the third time. And before we close today, I do want to share something with you that really feels very aligned with everything we've talked about in this episode today. Because sometimes the most meaningful things we do in life begin the exact same way, with the feeling before we have the full plan in view. And that for me, at turning 60, 5 days actually, after I run the New York Marathon, that is exactly that. And I've decided to use the run this year to support 2 organizations that are doing incredibly meaningful work in the world. I've doubled down this year because with all the chaos that's going on, I want to focus on making a difference. And I would love to have you on this journey with me. The first organization is Native Strength Revolution, which is equipping a new generation of Indigenous healers through leadership training and yoga certification. They give back to the kids in the communities and provide the wellness that every child needs and support for community leaders to provide a space to grow and become stronger. And the second is the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp. This is a camp that was started by Paul Newman in 1988, and it provides life-changing experiences for children facing serious illnesses, and it is completely free of charge to the children. As I said, at a time when so much of the world feels heavy, I am choosing to double down on this, to bring healing, leadership, and joy into people's lives. So I created a page where you can follow the journey and be a part of it if that interests you. You can actually sponsor miles along the marathon route. I have never done this before, so I'm massively stepping out. And every mile I will have on my shirt, I haven't completely worked it out yet, but I will post every single mile who sponsored that mile before I start it. So I've got to engineer how I'm putting the name and, that this mile is donated to them. And the first 13 miles are going to be going to the Native Strength Revolution. And the second 13 miles are going to be going to the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp. So it's just basically you can choose which organization that, feels you're aligned with. And the last 0.2 miles are all mine. They're all for me. And while I'm running, I'll be honoring those of you who have supported me on that mile as I run each and every single mile. If supporting at that level isn't right for you, I've also created ways that you can contribute by picking up some Raised by Fire gear that support the mission. And maybe, if you do that, I'll send you an email on the day of the race and you can wear your gear in honor and support me in that way. You can find everything at raisedbyfire.com/marathon mission. And over the coming months leading up to the race, I'll be sharing and celebrating the people who choose to support this part of the journey with me. It'll also be a part of my Stoop Stories that starts in a couple of weeks. Because sometimes the most beautiful things that we do together start simply by deciding, taking the first step and believing that something beautiful is on the other side.
Thank you for allowing the Love Lounge podcast to be a part of your day. There's nothing you need to take from this. Just let it be with you. If you'd like to explore more, you can find more about Lara at laradoughty.com or raisedbyfire.com and follow Lara on Instagram at the Lara Doughty. The light is on. our door stays open,